So I got this locomotive at a train show back in, I think it was October or so. And it was at a train show in Iowa. The overall way it looked brand new. Out of the box, it did not look like anybody had ever opened anything, touched anything. But if they did, whoever had it before me took very good care of it. You can see the extra parts are still in the original box. I believe it's from 1995, I think. Somewhere around there. So here you can see the shell. Very good detail for these Proto 2000. This is my first ever Proto 2000 that I owned. And yeah, they just have really good detail overall. The handrails are very thin, not the thick things that you would normally get on the lifelike locomotives, but very, very well detailed. So here's the locomotive. It is DCC ready, and that's what we're going to try and do. We're going to try and install DCC, and this is the plug. You just unplug it there, and then you plug a new decoder on top of that. So I brought out the test track just to see if we can see if it runs or not, because I didn't have anywhere to test it at the train show. So we get on the tracks, and then I've just got a 9-volt battery that I'll just put on the rails and see if it goes back and forth. But as I was doing this, you can see that, if I can get it to go, and it goes for a little bit and then just stops. And then you flip around, goes for a little bit, and it'll stop. So this was a common issue with a lot of the Proto 2000 locomotives, where the gears and stuff would just crack over time. So that was kind of what I was thinking it was. We'll go ahead and open it up and see what we can find here. So at this point, I've never, like I said, this is my first Proto 2000 locomotive that I ever owned, and I've never taken one apart before. And they're honestly surprisingly similar to Athearn with the way that the trucks are made. I assume they're the same exact trucks, that they would be interchangeable with each other. There on the bottom you can see it said lifelike. So right now I'm just trying to look for some screws here. There's one there in the middle, and I think there's one on the other side as well. So we get the screwdriver here. We'll just take these 2 screws out. And I wanted to just check underneath the fuel tank here to see if there are any screws that may be holding the chassis on, because as I was doing this, I thought surely there's not only 2 screws that hold this thing together. So here we're going to take the fuel tank off and make sure there's no screws underneath there, which there did end up being a couple screws under there. Slowly, there we go. Yeah, there, see those 2 little holes right there? That's where the screws would be. Yep. Don't want to rip that, so I tried on the other side, and that worked a little bit better. So once I got the tape fully off, just decided to stick it back in there and keep it for later, so that way we don't lose it, and that the fuel tank can stick back to the thing. For being a piece of tape from the 95, it still sticks pretty well. So once I got the regular screwdriver, we will go ahead and take these off. So once we got those off, then you could definitely feel that it was very loose and just about ready to come off. But there's a couple wires in between the die cast weight under there. And you do need to, it makes it a little bit easier, I thought, to take off that circuit board right there. And all that board really does is it's just a dummy plug for the DCC there. So on most of them, or on most like DCC locomotives, the circuit board is actually mounted there, and then there's a small dummy plug that plugs on top. But the Proto 2000 here, I noticed they were actually kind of backwards in the way where you plug the decoder into that little part there on the left. It's got all the black caps off of it. So I just thought that was interesting that they go that way. So here, you can kind of see that there's just two wires that are connecting that right there. One on each truck. So I'll have to go get the soldering iron and get those off. Before I did get my soldering iron though, I started taking apart the trucks kind of prematurely. I just got the worm gear out of there and just kind of inspecting what was going on in there. But once I was done, I did end up getting the soldering iron and touched that little ball of solder right there, and it just melts right off. Just perfect. So now we can remove the truck. And as you can see here, I was rolling it on the ground and it seemed to roll pretty freely, and so I was kind of confused as to why they kept stopping. But once I got the truck off, I decided to try and roll it by hand, which went very, very slowly, but eventually I got quite far rolling it through, and I didn't feel any resistance with anything, but still decided to press on and open up into the locomotive, see if we could find anything different that would tell us otherwise. So we'll just have to pop that clip off right there, holding the worm gear and the truck in place. But these are, you gotta be careful with these little clips on the top because they are kind of prone to breaking, and this being from 95, these plastics could be quite brittle, but it did come off eventually. Alright, so now we will grab the soldering iron here and just desolder or unsolder, whatever you want to say. Heat it up. This one took a little more. It was a little more resilient than the other one was. That one came off pretty fast, but as you can see there, got the truck out. And again, this one seemed to roll very well, but I just kept rolling it, but eventually I did run into a problem. So right there you can see that it stops. But what was strange to me is that rolling it on the ground seemed to be just fine. It didn't scrape or anything like that, so just kind of a weird issue with this this truck here. So go ahead and try and get the side frames off. And like I said before, these looked pretty similar to Athearn locomotives, and as I kept digging into them and getting more out, taken apart, they were definitely almost identical, pretty much identical to Athearn trucks. So after digging more and more into the truck, finally got all the side frames off and just decided to take it completely apart, check the gears, and just inspect what's going on in there. The lubricant and stuff looks a little gummy, but it should be alright for now. There's not a whole lot in there. To get these off, you have to like put the screwdriver, I usually put it straight down the side of the truck, or sometimes you can get them off like that, but if you do it this way, you do risk kind of breaking those little tabs off, and these can be pretty easy to break, even easier than the little clips that hold the truck to the frame because they're just so thin. But anyways, I decided to check the gears and stuff in there to see if any of them were cracked, and all of them looked to be in very, very good shape for how old they were. No cracks in these gears, and they all roll just fine. So the issue is not here. I started trying to clean in between each tooth of the gear here to see if there was some gunk or something like that in between them. So I actually ended up starting to put it back together, but as I was putting it back together, I noticed that this wheel was a little bit loose there, and so I decided to take a closer look at this gear, and upon further inspection I noticed a tiny hairline crack in it. Now I didn't think that this would affect the thing that much, but apparently it did, so I ended up having to get some new wheels and eventually replaced those. So these are the wheels that I decided to use, the Walther's Proto. The replacement wheels, they actually have them on their website specifically for the early Proto 2000 locomotives, so that was pretty nice, and Proto 1000. So really any Proto locomotive. I mean, I think you could even use these for Athearn locomotives as well. Don't quote me on that, but everything looked exactly the same on the inside, so I would assume they would fit in the same chassis and everything. But so we've got the wheels replaced here, and we don't know if they work or if it'll work quite yet, because I figured I would just go ahead and install DCC and put that back in there. But the only thing left to do is to install or to resolder these wires, the one there and then the one on the back there as well. So I decided to leave the chassis unscrewed, so that way it would make it easier to solder that wire back together. So we'll go ahead and get this first one done and then move on to the second one. And there we go. So this one gave me a little bit of trouble. I had to tin the wire, which I mean probably should do anyways, but I had to tin it to give a little more solder. There just wasn't quite a lot of solder left on the contact point there or on the end of the wire. So now we'll move on to the second one. And the second one here is a lot easier to do because it's not underneath a part of the chassis there, so I can actually kind of get my hand in there and reach in and make sure that everything is secured. And once again, I did get it on there, and I think there was probably plenty of solder there, but I just decided to go ahead and put a little bit more on there just to be 100% that there's enough solder there. Alright, well with everything soldered together, now we can put the screws back in place and get everything put back together, and we should have a working locomotive on DC. But next we're going to install DCC into this, which should be a pretty simple application here. It should just be plug and play. So this is the decoder that I decided to go with. It's a DH127. These are just nice little simple DC decoders. They're 8-pin decoders. Well, the decoder's 9-pin, but it has an 8-pin to 9-pin harness here. So we'll just go ahead and get this out of the package. And the little adapter as well. And just go ahead and plug this together. Make sure this is pretty snugly plug in, because you want a strong connection. You don't want it to accidentally come unplugged or anything like that. So once you got everything plugged in, all you have to do is just turn upside down. This is what I said, or earlier in the video I said something about that these are a little bit backwards, that usually the motherboard is just soldered, or not soldered, but is attached direct to the chassis, but this one is actually a little bit upside down. So the part where you plug it in, you leave on, and then that right there is the little dummy plug, essentially. So with everything on there, we'll get everything secured down. Oh, and make sure you push a little bit harder. There we go. That's snugly in there now. So this is probably the most difficult part, is adding everything back in, especially after you added stuff like the decoder, which it should fit. But I just have some regular black electrical tape. I know some people use Kapton tape, but I think black electrical tape works okay for now. I probably will come back and replace it with some Kapton tape, but just for now, we can use some electrical tape. And just make sure your wires aren't too kinked and stuff like that. I know some of them over there are probably a little kinked for my liking, but most of them are pretty good. So once you got them all in here, I'm just trying to use a screwdriver to kind of push some of them down and keep them in the shell. Make sure that they fit in there. But everything looks in place and good, so now we should be ready to put the shell back on. And sometimes it doesn't fit the first time, which is okay. Definitely did not fit the first time for me. I cut all those parts out for you, but once we did get it all sorted out, everything was really good and it just went right on. Usually you don't have to force it very hard, so if you do find yourself having to force it, just take it off and just try and look and see what you might be missing. Now it's time for the big reveal. Does it work? And luckily for us, I've got it hooked up to DCC here. You can see I'm not using my battery, and it rolls and rolls and rolls and rolls, and it doesn't stop. Well, it did there, but that's because I stopped it. But as you can see, it's rolling just fine, and everything works great. It even goes pretty quick too. So I think I ended up checking all of the gears later, and they actually all had little hairline cracks in them. So that was the reason why.